Let's face it, the internet was never designed to identify us humans. It was designed to identify computers. Hence, there are IP addresses. Fortunately or unfortunately, we humans do not have IP addresses yet until Elon Musk decides to put some sort of chips in our brain. In the initial days of the internet, it was not much of a problem because all we used to do in the internet was browsing or surfing. So it did not matter much if it's me who is browsing AOL or Yahoo or it's you. All that was needed was to identify the returning users, and hence cookies were invented. And then we started to do interesting stuff in the internet. We started to do banking, we started to do e-commerce, we started to buy and sell stuff in the internet, and we started to do social media. And then it did matter if it is me who is doing that banking transaction, or it's you, or it's that fraudster. And these days, if it is that AI chatbot or even the AI agent doing that banking transaction. But the internet didn't know how to identify me or you and differentiate from the fraudster. Internet did not have that identity layer, or rather the human identity layer. So what did we do? We started to use stopgap measures. We started to use technologies to temporarily fill the gap. We were probably not that ambitious, and we never probably realized that internet is going to penetrate every single corner of our digital life and also our organic lives. Did you know that password is one of the oldest technologies we still use? Passwords were invented in 1961 at the MIT's CTSS, the Compatible Time Sharing System. So that humble password box which stares at us at almost every single digital service we use has survived for more than 6 decades. 3 seconds. That's how often someone's password is compromised globally. And there are 300 billion passwords, actually even more than that, are in use right now. And interestingly, the most popular passwords for the last 10 years is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm sure many of us can relate to that. And that password cracked instantly. I'm sure you can feel that I hate passwords. I do. I hate passwords so much that I had to do a TEDx talk just to talk about it and share my dream and vision for a digital world without password. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who hates passwords. I'm sure many of you do the same. And these days, with all these AI acceleration, so easy access to all these open source AI models which these fraudsters have access to as well, things are scarier. There was a research paper published August 2023 by the researchers from the University of Durham in the UK, and also some of the other researchers from the University of Surrey in UK and the University of Royal Holloway in the UK. That research paper claimed and showed a very interesting experiment. The researchers trained a machine learning model to listen to the keystrokes when we type into a laptop to guess with maximum accuracy what are we typing. So if you're typing your password in your laptop or any other device with a keyboard, by just listening to those keystrokes, that machine learning model can identify what's that password. So just imagine you're sitting in a cafe sipping your favorite coffee. You open your laptop, you want to access your bank account, you look around, no one is looking at you. You go to the bank's website, a very popular omnipresent password box appears for you to enter your password. You look around again, no one is looking at your screen, and you type your password. You didn't notice that there is someone sitting behind you pretending to be looking at their phone. That phone has an application, and the application through the phone's microphone has been listening to the keystroke that you are typing, and off you go. Your password is compromised through that machine learning model that application has access to, and your bank account is compromised. Scary, isn't it? And then we thought passwords are not enough, let's do something else. And there were lots of reasons for that as well. Majority of those were not actually security and vulnerability, because we started to use many different digital services. On an average internet user uses around 35 digital services. I'm sure many of you are using many more than that. So 35 is an average number. So, and all these different digital services expect us to use a password, and we humans cannot remember that many combinations. So we start to reuse passwords across all, which is even worse. So anyways, we thought as a community that, hey, we need to go beyond password. And then we started to use OTP. Actually even worse. We almost almost forget that P in OTP stands for password, one-time password. And here the story of phishing starts, because OTPs are at the second level, because the OTPs need to be delivered through mechanisms like SMS, like email. And this is where, as I was mentioning, the story, or rather the scary story, phishing starts. If you remember, many years back, even a decade back, we used to receive those phishing messages, or rather messages which you just look into it and you say these are phishing messages. All those messages about some Nigerian prince wanting to give all their money if we can share our bank account detail or the OTPs. You look into those messages and you see, this is phishing. You're not really serious about those, because there will be spelling errors in there. There will be grammatical errors. The language will not look that polished and professional. You will look at it and you will say, hey, can't be serious. The bank cannot use that language. The bank cannot use a message with spelling error. But then something significant happened almost 3 years back, 30th of November 2022 to be precise. Yes, that's the ChatGPT phenomena. And these fraudsters started to use the same tool to generate phishing messages. Actually, there is a paper, very interesting paper published by the University of Texas in May 2023, and it talks about how to generate phishing messages using ChatGPT. These fraudsters has access and had access to not just ChatGPT, many of the open source large language models, which the fraudsters can then train and fine-tune on. We proud and happiness to talk about different stuff about what's going on in our life in social media publicly, and these fraudsters started to download this open source large language model, and then they started to access all these data, information, content that we share publicly in social media and beyond, and they started to fine-tune these open source large language models to generate the phishing message, so that the generated phishing messages were not just accurate from grammatical spelling perspective, but they started to feel very personal because they were fine-tuned on the content, our own content. I tried it myself. I used a locally downloaded large language model, open source one, and trained it and fine-tuned it with the content, messages, information that I share personally over the internet publicly and also in different social media. So one of my best friend, whenever we communicate, he will always start his messages with the word namaste. So when I trained this locally downloaded large language model with the content that I share, with the messages that I share, and then asked you to generate a message pretending to be my best friend, and guess what? It started with namaste. I didn't ask it specifically to do that, but it did that. So just imagine. But it didn't stop there, and that's the scariest part. I was in a conference and my fellow speaker, and I was waiting for my turn to go near the stage and give my talk. I was all mic'd up and someone was at the stage giving his talk. I was the next one, and this fellow speaker who was a neuroscientist was next to me. He was also mic'd up, and we were standing at the side of the stage and we started to talk. This fellow speaker asked me a question. Hey, can I ask you a question? I said, yes, go ahead please. He said, why do you think some content becomes viral? I thought for a bit, and being a technologist, a physicist, and an AI enthusiast, I gave a bit of a nerdy answer saying that, hey, because most of the things in the world collectively follows through the bell curve or the normal distribution or the Gaussian distribution for the nerds, where some of the content will not work at all. Majority of the content will be average as per the bell curve, and some content will be working brilliantly well, and that's where the viral content comes. He said, not really. And I was curious. I said, okay, that's interesting. Can you please let me know why? He said, we don't really know why, but we definitely know what happens. I said, that's a good start. What he told me is that those content, whether it's text, whether it's an article, whether it's a book, whether it's an audio clip, whether it's a video, which becomes viral, what happens is when we consume those content with our eyes, with our ears, when those, let's say, signals received by our eyes and our ears, when they go through our our biological neural network to our brain, apparently those content which become viral, those increase in our blood content the amount of dopamine and oxytocin, so that we become emotional. And then my turn came. I went to the stage, did my talk. When I came back, I started to think, hey, what if the fraudsters are actually utilizing that? What if the fraudsters who have got access to this open source large language model locally, and then they are training these large language models using our own personal content, what if they start to fine tune and train these large language models with this viral content? What will happen? And that's what I found out is happening. So these fraudsters are fine tuning and training this large language model with this viral content so that the generated phishing messages are not just accurate and not just personal. They will start to make us emotional. I did a bit more research after that, and I published an article which Forbes then published called Amygdala Hijack. So in his famous book, the Nobel laureate psychologist Daniel Kahneman book called Thinking Fast and Slow, he identified two separate logical brain systems, System 1 and System 2. System 2 is the reasoning brain. It's our frontal lobe. It's the prefrontal cortex, which does a lot of reasoning, which thinks, which is a bit slow. That's the thinking slow part of it, right? And that's needed because of a lot of processing that we humans need to do. But we also have, as part of our human evolution, we have the System 1, which is the emotional brain. This is the amygdala, which is there for fight and flight, which is there to invoke emotions in us. These viral content, and using some psychological techniques, which is explained by Daniel Kahneman in his book Thinking Fast and Slow, these fraudsters are invoking what I call the amygdala hijack, so that we are emotional, we become emotional, and our amygdala gets hijacked when we see those phishing messages and we act upon it. So just imagine, when you are looking into those phishing messages, which is absolutely accurate, no spelling errors, polished language, no grammatical errors, looks very personal, looks very, familiar, and this makes us emotional. It hijacks our amygdala. So in that case, we will be forced to click that link, which we should not. Scary, isn't it? And then we thought it's not enough. Let's do something else. And here, the story of biometrics starts. And we are told repeatedly that, hey, biometrics is extremely secure and we should use it. So biometrics is your facial biometrics, scanning your face to identify that it's you, your fingerprint biometrics, your voice becomes your signature basically to identify that it's you. But that's actually even more scarier. Just think of it logically. If your passwords are compromised or even your OTPs are compromised through some phishing scams, yes, it's very inconvenient. There could be impact from small, medium to very large. Financially, it will be very inconvenient. But still, at the end of that painful journey, there is an action that you can do, which is change your password. OTPs are fine. These are one time anyway. You may do some sort of checks on your phone or you change your phone number. But what would you do if your biometrics, which is biometrics data rather, your fingerprint biometrics, your facial biometrics is compromised? It's stolen. Just think over it. So it's even more dangerous. And also the other thing is, if you have used any form of, let's say, facial biometrics, let's say Face ID or Touch ID, how do you actually set it up? So before setting up Face ID or Touch ID or any such mechanisms, you use your user ID and password first to basically set it up. So in that case, the passwords are the weaker points. So these fraudsters, they don't really care whether you're using biometrics, Face ID, Touch ID. They will target the weakest point, which is the password. And why we are seeing all these issues? We are seeing these things because, again, the internet did not know and still doesn't know how to identify me and you and separate it out from the fraudsters. And why should we care? We should care because the impact of this fraud globally is just humongous. There was a report published by the University of Portsmouth in the UK, and that claimed that the report had some figures that the total cost of these frauds, financial cost, is around $5.12 trillion. So if you put that figure as pretending to be a country, that becomes the third largest country as per GDP in the world, just after US and China. Just think over it. And also, all these stopgap measures that we have been doing, they are not just makes the security and the complications and all the frauds, they're very inconvenient as well, because they put friction in front of us when we want to access some digital services. And that friction actually creates problem for conversion rate for the businesses. So it is estimated that around 40 to 60% of the cart abandonment happen due to this friction. So when you put, some elements, some things that you want to buy in a cart, and then it asks for some sort of authentication, some sort of, hey, identify that it's you. And then because of the friction, because of all the mechanisms, stopgap measures that we use, the carts get abandoned. So that, loss of business here. So enough of all the problems that we are talking about. Do we have a solution? We almost forget that there was a parallel internet that was invented, created, started 4 years after the traditional internet was born. I'm actually using the word internet as a synonym to the World Wide Web. Technically, internet is slightly different, or rather different to the World Wide Web, but I'm using those as a synonym just for this conversation. So the internet, or rather the World Wide Web, was invented in 1989 by Sir Tim Berners-Lee, and this parallel internet that we never call the internet was invented or started in 1991, just 4 years after that. And this parallel internet is the mobile network. The mobile network does similar thing like the internet, right? It connects things, but it behaves very differently when it needs to identify humans. Just imagine what happens when I want to buy something from, for example, from eBay. I have bought something from eBay and I want to pay. The experience is eBay will say, hey, you cannot pay. That's counterintuitive, isn't it? In business, if someone wants to pay, you basically don't put any friction in there. But the way the digital services work is eBay will say, hey, you cannot pay. You need to first prove that you're Gotham with all those stopgap measures. If I can prove that I know Gotham's password, then I'm Gotham. If I can prove that I have access to the OTP delivered to Gotham's phone, then I'm Gotham. If I can prove that I can scan my face or my fingerprint, and it's the same face or fingerprint is Gotham's face and fingerprint when Gotham set it up the account, and then I can actually pay. But if you think over it, the experience in this parallel internet called the mobile network works very differently. When someone calls me on my mobile phone, which is a digital service as well, if my mobile operator says, hey, you cannot pick that call or you cannot receive that call until you prove that you are Gotham, that will not just be funny, that will be unacceptable. So how do they do that? They don't use stopgap measures like passwords, OTPs, biometrics to deliver the service. They just know it's me, or they have enough confidence that it's me and nothing has gone wrong. They do that using this humble SIM, which we are carrying in our pocket since 1991. I always remind myself and everyone else that I in SIM stands for identity. It's the subscriber identity module. So the question is, can't we actually use that mechanism of identifying us humans confidently without putting a lot of frictions, without challenging me as human, without using all those stopgap measures to fix or temporarily fix the gap that the internet had into the digital services that we use? Certainly, that basically is a solution. And I always look for what I call is the humanization test of any technology. And this is what Steve Jobs actually said. Steve Jobs said that a technology should either be beautiful or it should be invisible. He was actually talking about humanization of technology. Let's do that test for the stopgap measures, password, OTPs, biometric. They're not invisible. They're extremely visible. They're extremely frictionful when we are using it. So they definitely don't pass the humanization test. Let's now check with the humanization test for the mechanism that we talked about, where the SIM is used to identify us humans. It's definitely invisible. It may not be beautiful, but it's definitely invisible. I as a human is not participating in there. It's the cryptography in the SIM which is involved in there. So it's invisible. So in a way, it passes the humanization test. So Let's make this internet a safer place for all of us in the digital space and also in the organic. And yes, let's humanize the technology, and let's keep humanization of technology as an uncompromisable principle in whatever we are building and whatever we will be building in the future. If this has given you some thought to look into how the internet works or does not work in a different way, please subscribe to the channel. I will be talking a lot about, of course, the internet, AI, how it is going to impact our day-to-day life, our work, about how it is impacting society, and yes, humanization of technology. Thank you.